Before we get started tonight, just want to let you know that this is a live stream that we recorded on September 30th, 2025. And if you want to see the full video in all its glory, head over to our YouTube channel.
Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Well, welcome to Countercharge. We figured, Matt, Jeremy, we've been talking about 4th edition off and on for a while now. We've done interviews. There's tons of stuff that's been available from other podcasts, from the Mantic blog or the Mantic news outlet on their website. We figured, let's just get together and just, what do we think? Like, what's the information? Where do we think this is going? And I will say, it's very difficult because we're only getting like a little tiny snippet, right? So it's like, I'm also going to caution everything we're going to say by, I'm not a playtester, so I don't know. Like, I don't have any of the details. If Jeremy doesn't say anything, I will let you infer whether that's an NDA being enforced, or...
Yeah, and also, to be honest, every game system that you've ever worked on, there's changes that happen after the playtest process, so I have no idea what the final result is going to be. So many of these things, learning along with the rest of you guys, the final tuning that they've done.
And welcome to Mr. Dwayne Richardson, who painted up a very juicy blaster model. It's funny because I was literally considering painting a blaster model for the Michigan GT, and I was like, yeah, I'm not in the mood to be spending several hours on this. But I was in the mood to paint up another sharp stick thrower so I could shove it up Brian's butt tomorrow. So anyways,
to
be fair, he does this, but then he beats me. But he does this like, oh my god, and then
I did beat him.
Yeah, I was like, come on, bro. So obviously, for those who don't know, this is Brian, one of our local players, and the hope for tonight was to not only get our discussion on what we see and what our opinions are, but get someone that you don't have any takes on. Like, I won't say new player because you've been with us for a while, but
newish.
I mean,
newish.
Was it how long has it been since 3rd edition?
Since 2021, after my mid 3rd edition, right?
Yeah,
before Red Book.
So that might even been 3.5, right?
Yeah, I think it was 3.5 when I came in.
Yeah. So
yeah, well, Brian, before you were actually on, behind your back, Rob said we're getting him on to get an idiot's guide or an
Sweet.
idiot's.
I'm here to provide. That sounds like something Rob would say about me.
100%. Yes. Well,
I'm joking.
Let's start at the top. We were challenged by Steve Hildrew, our very drama-free friend from the UK, I think. Maybe I'll say that can we? Yeah, Jeremy's a new player too. But what about Clash of Kings? So I am publicly stating I am going to Clash of Kings UK in 2026. So Jeremy's agreed to it. Can we get a public declaration from you as well, Jeremy?
Yeah, the only thing I could say.
Oh, he's caveats. No. There's asterisks.
No. There may be a new Jeremy version 2.0 being brought to us, are freshly in diapers by that point. So if I am elbow deep in young baby feces, I might not be able to go. But outside of that, I don't see anything standing in the way. So.
Well, that is an acceptable excuse.
We don't know yet, but we're going to attempt to breathe new life into the world. So hopefully,
is it like the island of Dr. whatever his name is, and you don't know what you're going to get, or genetic experiment here, or what?
I think I'm older. Stacy's a little bit older, so I think that there's no guarantees in life once you get to the where we are in life. But we're gonna try. We're gonna give it a shot. So that's the only thing that might this time next year. Knock on wood, we'll see. But
outside of that, pops out, we're not going to be surprised.
Knocking on wood, how it's going to happen, mate. So
there's plenty of that going on at the moment. So
congratulations, that's awesome.
I got some crutches here to try to get around. I mean, this old body, man, it's doing its best.
So as we alluded to, Mantic's been doing a pretty good job dripping out content Maybe not at the pace that the internet would like, or with the breadth of details that the internet would like. This just PSA here. This is probably a good time period to get off Fanatics for a little while, right? Because it's going to get really hot and heavy for the next few weeks, or certainly until we really know more about the big, have a better understanding of the big picture.
Well, we always say, right? What are miniature gamers' second favorite hobby behind miniature gaming? It's complaining about miniature gaming.
Right.
So I think we're seeing some of that.
So
I think one thing that's important with that, like we've seen lots of people say you haven't got the full rules, which is true. But also when it comes to change, we've got to remember that with a full set of new rules, how people approach a game will change. And you've got to account for that in your thinking. So even though something feels really different, it doesn't mean like it's not going to be changing the exact game you played before, actually. It's going to change. It's just going to be a different way to play the game in what is essentially a new game, Yeah.
Good perspective to take into this. So if for those that haven't seen it, and if you haven't and you're actually on this live stream, you must be under a rock, but you can obviously click at the main page and click here, right? Or I actually like this a little better. I go up to the news section, and then you can actually a little bit. Oh, what the heck? Try to get the news. There we go.
It's a little bit easier. It's fine.
Yeah, it's a little easier to find all the stuff, right? And it starts back. I guess we're in week 2.
Are in the computer.
So it looks like they got their drips out for the various sections, but today or tomorrow, I guess. So Matt lives in the future. So in the future, Matt, have they laid out army construction today?
Oh, mate, I've read it. I'm read it, of course. That's what happens. I've read it, and I know all about it.
Oh, that's why you're on the show.
That's why you're here, because we don't have access yet.
Yes.
Yes, no. Everything is, we all get it at the same time. It just happens to be British Standard Time.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, though, is I've had a couple things, up until like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was wondering, did we really need a new edition? But I had a couple of like hit me in the head moments where I was like, yeah, I think it's time. Maybe we call them epiphanies. I don't know. But something. And I know, Matt, I talked to you about this, and Jeremy. The first is we went to Memphis Comic Con, and War Room Hobbies had a booth there. We demoed a ton of games, and I think I talked about this on one of the firesides. But the short story here is I really came away with a different perspective, which is if you're trying to attack new players, it doesn't matter what the rules are. It's what cool models are you having on the table? Because it was almost like for those of a certain age, and Brian, I don't know if you're in this age or not, but some might know what the Pepsi Challenge was, right? Yeah, okay. These two guys on the right, they have no clue. But long story short, there was a thing where you got 2 cups of soda. One was Pepsi and one was Coke, and demonstrably they picked Pepsi over Coke when it was blind taste testing. So in this one, though, we had Kings of War Champions demoed. We had Age of Sigmar, and we had Warcrow has their new game. For sure. To be fair, Kyle, I thought about bringing you on, but, I don't think we could handle your boisterousness.
Who's that? Who's tech?
That's Kyle.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Kyle and Brian can't be in the same room. That's too much fun at once. For sure.
So my takeaway, though, is we had people that were interested. We said, like, what are you interested in? Like, oh, I'm interested in fantasy games. Are you a new player? And really, it was really an interesting thing. Like, I think some people were attracted to the Champions game because of the ranks and flanks, which looked different than every other game we had there. But overwhelmingly, people were pulled to just really cool models. And it breaks my heart to say it, but like the Age of Sigmar stuff wasn't even painted, and people were like, oh, this is amazing. We got to play with these models. So my takeaway here is that rules are important to keep you at the table, but I don't think it gets new players to the table. I could be wrong. Brian, do you have a take on that?
That was the first thing that brought me into the game whenever I was at War Room Hobbies with Devlin playing next to us, because I work with Devlin. And then the models themselves and the dioramas and the rank and flank is what brought me. And then the rules, the simplicity of the rules is what was my favorite part. Like once you got the base sizes and the movements, and you just intuitively knew how to play the game. And I think that's lost a little bit over the last few Clash of Kings. They've had a lot of flavors across many armies that you've lost some of that, how everything works mentality a little bit. And that's what drew me to the game. But So yeah, the models are all. I like to paint. You've seen my armies.
100%.
I enjoy that part quite a bit.
Yeah. Matt, Jeremy, you guys have a comment on this?
Well, I mean, I think the like you said, for new players, and I think maybe even veteran players, the like many things in life, the hot, sexy miniatures get you in the door, and then whether or not it's a good game is if you want to stay or not. I think very rarely will someone be, I mean, look at games that historically have had horrible rules but great models, and those are the most popular games that there is. So I think designing new rules are designing an addition within umbrella or paradigm of rules accessible to new players. If the other side of that coin, which is making cool worlds and making cool models, if that is not also part of your vision, mission, values, I don't think you're going to get very far. So part of fourth is I'm excited to see the new stuff, right? Because they've talked about that, right? In your great interview with Matt, he talked about, the upping the production value as third was an upgrade in production value from second. Fourth is going to be a production upgrade from third. I heard new box art. I heard all that stuff in your guys' interview, which I think is really important. It's got to have the shelf appeal, right?
Before we let Matt chime in, we do want to apologize. Jeremy was supposed to be on the show, but I guess time zones are what they are, and we didn't clearly communicate the timing, which would have been 3 a.m. for Jeremy. But regardless, so I heard a little sadness in your voice, Jeremy, and we were sad.
Oh yeah, but great job. It was great job. You guys did a fantastic interview. If you haven't gone to listen to that yet, please go back and do it. Some really great stuff. And it was fun to listen to it and not knowing at all what was said in it, as an audience member. But
Matt,
but to agree with you, Rob,
yeah,
and I'll throw it to Matt, is making awesome miniatures, whether it's your own home, STL, however you're going to do it, right? In today's marketplace, that is just as important, maybe more so than how great your rules are for attracting new players,
Yeah, well, and I think it's even more important than, say, a decade or 2 decades ago, because actually the exposure to rank and flank gaming is even less than what it used to be. You used to walk into what was then a Games Workshop store, right? And you had Warhammer Fantasy and you had 40K. Now you walk into a store like that. I mean, one, you can't walk into a Mantic store, but then you walk into a Games Workshop store and you're not seeing rank and flank as their primary selling game. So they have to draw people in via their models. And so I'm hoping with the new army that we see some eye-bleeding awesomeness.
Well said. So that was my first kind of takeaway from where we are. And then, Brian, I'm going to pick up on something you said, simple rules, right? And you were kind of alluding to the fact that maybe we've gotten some bloat, right? And I had an epiphany, Brian, and Brian Swatley, who will listen to this at some point, will hear this. So my battle brother, my enemy.
3 Cronus?
Correct. So I'm playing against the same. No, look, I'll tell you what, Brian, playing against that army's got me pretty damn good.
I beat him, son.
I beat him enough too, but I mean, it's a tough list. So I'm playing against Brian's list, and for those that haven't heard me spiel it, it's 3 Croniuses and a Well of Souls. They stay together as a block. The Well of Souls sucks up all the damage up to 20. The Croniuses go into combat and heal the Well of Souls up for 9 wounds per turn. It is literally unkillable. Like there's nothing I shouldn't say that. Yes, if I get a crazy goofy thing, I might get 1 or 2 of the Croniuses, but it's really difficult. And don't get you wrong, like there's also berserkers coming around the sides, right? So it's not an easy army. But we had a moment in that game where the light bulb went off for me. So he's got the block, 3 Croniuses and the Well of Souls, and he wants to charge a rabble horde. Seems like a simple enough thing. All in the front flank. Okay. Some would be hindered, right? But now the Croniuses have Strider, so that doesn't matter. But it was such a convoluted, like, goofy conversation, just working out, okay, how can we move the units so they don't cross each other's path, right? Which is a rule. How can we do it so everybody's taking the most direct path possible? And then how much frontage does each one get? And then considering the fact that some are 6 plus D6 dice. Like it hurt my head. It literally hurt my head. And I said, this shouldn't be this hard to throw a bunch of monsters into a cheap goblin rabble horde, right? And that's when it hit me that maybe we've jumped the shark a bit, and like maybe we are at a point where the complexity, if that was me explaining it to me and Brian working through that. If that's a new player, their head would explode. All the reasons why you can't charge. Yeah,
I think the shared frontage thing being gone is almost one of the best changes.
100%.
You know, because it's always different base sizes, and you're going, what's that percentage again? You know, you know, I think from the little that we've read, the fact it's basically does it fit or does it not, you know, and only being able to do 2 in one flank and that they can accommodate for each other. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So much simpler. Simpler.
My question to you guys, and I'm not going to answer until you guys are all done, but like when you think about, we'll call it bloat, but we could call it organic evolution of the game, increased complexity, whatever you want to say. Where does that come from? Is that a natural thing that just happens with a rule set over time? Or is there something that...
Well, some of that's been there since the start of the edition, Rob. The shared percentage has been there since the start of second, you know? So I think some of it is probably learning, and then some of it is bloat.
I think some of the bloat comes from trying to freshen the game for the community that's been playing it for so long, trying to give us something new to approach and new ways to build the army and new tactics without realizing we're killing the newcomers because there's just too many rules and too many variations for them to be able to track and understand.
Kyle is spitting facts there, right? It is a me issue, or I could say, is it though? I didn't write the list. It's Kyle's fault, right?
What do you think about some of those, or that, Jeremy, of like bloat versus... I mean, some of it has arisen from playing editions of a year or two, right? And then trying to clarify niche cases.
Yeah. No, I think it's a lot of things. I think is that you have sort of, like you said, the shrapnel of the game, right? Which is you turn one nozzle, you tweak one thing, and you don't realize that sort of organically spider webs out and affects 7 other different things. So I think we've had that some over the years. I think that you have the core's rules design, right? That's like the car that you're driving. Like, how simple do we want to keep that? How clean, how fresh? And then I think, you know, you're getting ready to go out, you know, party that night, and the outfit you put on is the army that you're going to play, right? And I think we've been tweaking in the engine of the car a little bit, but also we've been working on our new duds, right? I'm looking at you.
Let me just stop for a second. I love me a Jeremy metaphor, and this one's fresh.
I got something for you today. This is brand new. Debuted today. So I think
he's got a second screen with notes of new metaphors.
Probably. I do, right up here.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you have. You have that tension, right, between designing a core, the engine, which I think in listening to your guys' interview is really what Alessio was focused on, right? If the engine works, if the car will get you to the dinner, wear whatever outfit you want, right? I'm focused on making sure the car gets you where you want to go. And then I think army design and army flavor, that's sort of the outfit you inhabit when you're playing your army, right? It's all the flavor, it's what you want. And I think sometimes those are at odds with each other a little bit, right? I think in design, but also in what you want. I think many players exist on the spectrum, right? Of cleaner, less flavor, or more flavor, a little bit more situational experiences. So I'm hoping as like a design philosophy in the game, we keep our car nicely tuned and we don't tweak with that, right? If we want to add stuff to the game, let's not mess with rules, right? Let's mess with, okay, this army is going to get this, which is going to be a little different. Or that's where I really like Alessio's philosophy of removing, here is the core rule, period. Exceptions to that rule are going to be someplace else, right?
Yeah, that landed well with me as well. I like that split.
I think that's a really clear idea, so that you know what the rule is, and then that allows you to play a little bit more with the flavor side, right? And you know, Kings of War has for better or worse, and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse. You know, real talk, because we would have nothing in some of these. It's a lot of cooks are in the kitchen, and a lot of cooks have been in the kitchen over the years, and thankfully, because if those cooks weren't in the kitchen, we probably weren't having any food. Right. So again, I don't want to, poo-poo on anyone's Cheerios, as I say, but I think that happens in game design by committee. is usually never a good thing, right? So I
Yeah.
think maybe having mom and dad in charge for a little bit, it means maybe your opinion doesn't get heard as much and you have to go with what they say. But I wonder if the game is in need of that a little bit right now.
Jeremy,
Yeah.
if armies are outfits, which one is fishnet stockings?
Well, that's got to be like
Trident
Twilight
Realms.
Kin, right? Well, I mean, Trident
Twilight-
Realms, I guess.
I was leaning towards Twilight Kin. Yeah,
I think Twilight Kin probably.
Mm.
You
Yeah, I'll
know,
buy
and then
that.
maybe like the nice white stockings with a little bit of frill on top that you don't see because it's under the dress. That's Basileia, right? You don't know what's under the petticoat, but it's something good, and you want to know, and you'll fall. You know, so
I
You
love
guys are
it.
terrible.
I don't know if any of that made any sense, Matt.
It
Did that
sort
make
of
any-
did, but
No,
it was a
makes
great
sense,
metaphor.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
you know, but we're gonna go into the blogs and talk about some of the things they have shared. But before we get to that point, you know, just some of the things from our interview with them. Obviously, it's clear Alicio's going to handle the rules, which I think is. You guys know my opinion. I don't change my oil. I don't do brain surgery on myself. Like I like it when a specialist, right? Well, there's not much surgery to be done, right? But yeah, I appreciate a professional game designer doing the rules, right? That's their job.
I sometimes change my own oil.
I bet you know what I'm gonna call bullcrap on that. I bet your wife does it. Your wife is she's more manly than you are. I think that's what I think.
She's
Like,
handier. She's much handier than I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen her smack. You know, pick up spiders, all kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not quite as squeamish as you.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
So and then Matt did talk about he's going to take over the process of getting the armies updated. And for those that haven't listened to the podcast, we'll just kind of give you the crib notes. Essentially, there's going to be expansion books that come out with, I guess, 4 armies in a book, right? And they're very narrative driven. And one of the things I thought was very great or very clear was you don't have to buy the books. You just want to play on the companion. The list will be in the companion. But the books are for the people like me that want to play, to do the hobby, that want to play the narrative side of the event. And you know, when those armies, go ahead, Matt.
well, and to confirm, I think, didn't he say too that we will know exactly which armies are going to be in which books well ahead of
He
time?
said, and I don't remember which podcast, he said they were going to give them the titles of the books. You will know the
Get
first
the
book
guess.
comes out of
You can
yeah.
guess which ones and which titles.
Right. But you know the first 4 because the book is at launch, and he confirmed Salamanders is in there, right? And you pretty good guess the new army's going to be in there too, right?
That's why I printed these bad boys.
Oh, looking good.
Salamanders,
Not
yeah.
Not that I've seen the book, so I'm guessing that thing still exists.
Fingers crossed we get to talk about it at
Yeah.
some point. I haven't seen it either, but we're hoping. We're hoping. But you know, I think I think too it's important to talk about the rules committee, right? The important role they're going to play going forward, because Alicio's not going to handle anything to do with army balancing. So you know, we're going to need them to be the voice of the community, and you know, I think there's an opportunity for some improvement there as well, getting some more voices that maybe share the thoughts and feelings of maybe underrepresented groups like the Garage Gamer. You know, I always say balance doesn't mean fun, right? Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And I think there needs to be a voice of just say, hey, is this fun? Right? It's balanced, it's clean, but is it fun? So I would like to see a little bit more on that side too. But I'm excited
And
about
another great side of that question is this unfun, right, Rob?
Yeah,
that's another
you know,
important
and
question.
what we're going to talk about for shooting is exactly that reason.
I was about to bring
am-
up shooting. Is it
Yeah.
fun or not? I have opinions on the shooting
Brian,
side.
what is your opinion when I take off your bleep?
I will give you I have ran into a game. It was a recent tournament. I lost her rim in the bottom of one to lightning bolt spam that spiked to all get out, and it's the most unfun moment of the game I think I may have had. Like it's jarring, and you just can't respond. And Rob knows that him and I have played a lot of games. I tend more towards melee infantry. I like playing armies and fighting with those units. And I tend not to bring a lot of shooting. So I'm a huge fan of the shooting change, which is probably not the community's agreement, but I like the change. I like it weakening. It's not useless. It can weaken your units when you get into the combats. I'm a huge fan of the shooting change person.
Yeah.
And again, if you bring enough volume of shooting that you're like, because you can still get to them above their nerve value, right?
You could devastate them.
And yeah, devastate them and effectively then be able to waver them. In the context of a new game where that's not as common, it will still, I imagine, have some sort of significant advantage, right? It's just going to look different to what it does. So when we say, oh, you can no longer delete units and things like that, well, that's still referencing the old mechanics of the game, right? Whereas we'll have new mechanics of the game where we move forward. And so relative to those, there's the chance that it still has powerful effects.
I believe, though, that to actually look, in my experience, I have never devastated a unit by shooting. I get it to like 4 or 5, hopefully within like 6 to 7 on the dice, and I try to roll the waiver value, right? I try to roll the route value.
That's because you're somewhat moderate compared to your compatriots, Rob.
Okay, fair.
Moderate. He's got 7 war engines in his current list.
Correct. I have 7 war engines in this current list, including 3 trombones, thanks to Kyle.
Sorry, you're good player compatriots, I should have said. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So my point is, I think if you did want to still go down that all gun line route, yes, you might be able to knock out a unit, but it's so inefficient that you're not going to knock out enough to really make it count.
Well, right? Also, I think Matt, you bring up a really good point, which is thinking about a change and how that change would be good or bad in 3rd edition is pointless, right? Because this is not 3rd edition; it's a completely new game. So you don't know like what's the points cost of shooting units going to be, what other elements, So to take a rules change and determine in your head whether you think it's good or bad or going to make things more or less powerful. Right now, we're so entrenched in an old version of the game that whether it's conscious or subconscious bias, I think it's going to be difficult to really feel how it's going to feel. I can say in all my playtest games, I had shooting in my armies and never decided to take it out, So, but you can't decide if something is good or bad, like in vacuum, right? You got to think about how is this going to, in the new tree, this is a new tree. So how is this branch in the new tree going to feel? So
we do want to mention, we got Dylan joining us from Arkansas, as they say. So we're going to tackle a controversial question. So Dan wants to know, is this all designed to drive off existing players? So is anybody...
No. He's saying to not drive off existing players.
To not drive off. Yeah.
So basically
to build a new game skin is to not drive off existing...
Yeah. Are they just calling it Kings of War so old players don't go away, but it's actually a new game is what he's asking.
Well, I don't know. On the podcast,
Dan can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but I think
we did ask him, right? We did ask him whether it was evolution versus revolution. And when I talk about Warhammer Fantasy, I think it's always revolution because they were resetting the game every edition. He made it very clear that it's not. There's more the same with 3rd edition than different. But what are you?
That's how it feels. That's how it feels to me. Yeah. Like it's simplification of the same game.
Yeah.
But Dylan, what do you think?
Well, they made it pretty clear that they were carrying forward the spirit of 1st through 3rd into 4th. I don't think it's a question on is the game still going to be Kings of War. I think it even ties in kind of to the last topic as like what they want to incentivize. It's not necessarily about, can I still do all the same things that I was doing before? It's more like, how can I fit in my play style and how the incentive structure for list building and core mechanics are going to play out? I think if you're worried about like, can I take my current list into 4th, or are these units that I like now, they're going to be completely worthless? I think you're maybe asking the wrong questions. But that's
to answer your question, I think they said on our podcast that 85% of your army is still, like about a 15% change because the list construction is different. So you like what I read into that, if you're the guy with 7 units of, take your pick, right? Bladestalkers.
That's exactly what I read into it, Rob, is that the 15% likely represents, multiples of units, 3 or 4 or more of above. Like, I feel like the vibe, look at Firefight, I think, if you want your answers. But also it's more akin to that, I think, old Warhammer Fantasy, right? You pay your core tax to unlock your special stuff.
Yeah.
Which for new players makes it more interesting games because I tend to build balanced arms list where I have a bunch of variety of units in my list, and I enjoy playing that. And then you run into a spam list, and you're like, I can't deal with all that stuff because I don't have the answers to all of that because I built a balanced list. So I can't wait to see the new army building blog to come out just to see what it's going to be because I look forward to hopefully more balanced lists across the board personally.
Well, let's take another question. Gordon asks about unit strength. I believe I don't think they were very clear on this, but I'm pretty sure. Well, let me say this. My speculation is that unit strength will be part of the advanced rules, and it won't be part of the profile of the units. So I don't know. What are you guys' takes? I stumped you guys so early. Because I think I also read somewhere that the loot token, some of those scenarios are still there. So some of those require.
Yeah, the implication of unit strength still being there is he mentioned things like objective and loot token missions in passing. Yeah. So you'd almost think it has to be there.
No, so it is there. I think the like Rob, the comments it's not on the profile. So I think basically that becomes part of the core rules that this size of this thing is always worth X amount. And is always worth it, and is always this height.
So Torture Souls,
I think, will be height 3. Yeah, I know. So for simplification purposes, I don't mind that, but I do think it has the potential that it's the easy to fix for that is that you change the designation of Tortured Souls, right? Maybe they're not large infantry anymore because they don't bloody look like it. Or
they said they were not rebasing anything except for the heroes, right? Yes.
Did they say definitively?
100% on one of the podcasts that was said. They are not. So Matt, if you would get out more and commute like the rest of us, you get to hear this stuff.
I know. So I think it does have potential to take away from a little bit of flavor of some things, but I think in the main, in the context of what they're trying to do with the rest of the game in terms of simplification, I think that's fine. Like it fits their overall game theory.
And I think they did say
that. I think they did say if there were any special cases, that those two stats would come back into the profile for the individual exceptions.
Actually, you are right, Dylan. And I think they even provide an example of that maybe in one of the blogs. I think there was something where there was a variation. So, for example, there was a lot of thing about swarms aren't a thing anymore, but they are a thing. They're just. I think they're going to have a specific entry on their profile.
Yeah, they never mentioned Titans either. What are your Titan base sizes and heights and things like that?
I think that was one of their examples of the exception. So monsters is monsters and Titans, and then whatever unit is supposed to be on a 75 and height 6, it'll actually say in the profile. Unless I misunderstood.
Yeah, you're showing it right now. They give the example of Orclings, right?
Yeah, for height. Yeah. So Dan has a good point, right? Dan, you got a good point, right? You're simplifying it for 99% of the time, but there's going to be some exceptions.
Yeah, I personally, when they saw it, I didn't see the need for it to come off the profiles.
Me too. I think it could have stayed on. Yeah. And Mark agrees with you.
That probably means I'm wrong. Love you, Mark.
You know what would be great? Maybe, they always do special rules at the end of an army on the Manta Companion. Maybe when you do a full PDF printout at the end, they put the height chart as part of the army list or something. Maybe that might be something cool for the Companion to do. So when you print your army list out on the Companion, it has some.
In terms of what's interesting in terms of height, if you think of champions. There is no height in champions. Everything's the same height, but there is unit strength, and that is listed in the profile. That's one of the things that's really interesting because I was always thinking we were going to have a lot of things, and maybe we do if I really think about it, but a lot of things that would overlap with champions. But there's been some differences, right? Like the fact that, we'll get into some of the changes, but there's certainly some things that are not like champions. Does anybody know the answer to this? He had about heavy infantry versus standard horde. I don't think we have any indication of what the unit strengths are going to be. Anybody?
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump in and let's maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of skim through some of these blogs and just chat a little about some, maybe pick out some of the more juicier things or some of the things we already knew were coming. And the first one, hero bases, right? Like it's not a secret that Champions has all their heroes on 40s or 50s. I would have been shocked if they didn't do that for Kings of War. But what are your thoughts on, you guys, about this change?
I assume they did 40 and 50 millimeter bases to not make the ogre people base
Correct.
all of their units.
So the Bloody Cardinal's on a 50 millimeter base, whereas Alanis from the Basilene's on a 40. Anybody else have a comment on this?
So I mean, I imagine it's going to be mostly like foot infantry be on 40s, cavalry be on 50s. I mean, obviously the Bloody Cardinal's a bit different. I don't know. Without seeing the rules, it's kind of like I know people like the thematic and being able to base it up. At the same time, I also think some of the standard infantry heroes on foot, potentially won't look as good as some of the bigger models on the bigger bases, and it'll be interesting to see how it interacts with things like ogres. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent to that change, to be honest, mostly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like anything else where you have a standard of infantry is going to be 40, cavalry will be 50, and then any exceptions it's going to be specified.
I mean, I think just from a modeling perspective, it's super cool. I mean, it's an extra thing you can do a diorama for. And I always felt individuals sometimes felt out of place a little bit when you're looking on the battlefield, just from an aesthetic, having a little tiny guy and then everything else is on big blocks. And I think, we'll see when the final comes out, but, there was a lot of wonkiness that could happen with that little individual gameplay wise. So I think another way, if you standardize it to a size that's more, applicable elsewhere, perhaps you come up with a little bit more ease of play. But I think from a modeling standpoint, I'm super excited.
Did they ever mention in any conversations, anything I read, if they will still be yielding at that base size? Meaning, can you still charge through them?
So one of the podcasts they alluded to, they didn't say yielding, but there is certainly some kind of mechanic like that for standard bearers, which are not robust. I have no idea what that's going to be. We'll tackle Brass Monkey's question. The answer is no. I will say this is the first release, launch, whatever you want to call it, where Mantic was very organized about how they were going to disseminate the information. So I assume at some point they will have copies out for people to review, but not yet. They are very controlling on what's coming out when. Yeah. Great question, by the way. Thank you. Let's see what else we got here question-wise. So, Brass got our question about, are they actually going to relate to... I don't... guys, I think I've just heard December. I doubt very highly it's December 24th. I would... My money... I don't know. But my speculation would be early December. So that it could be there for Christmas. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Anybody have any guesses here?
It's tough in today's world. Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So Mark's bringing up that they originally I did hear November, but they've stopped saying November, right? So I'm all the banners now say December. So let's see what we got here. For sure, they're still playtesting, right? For sure. That would be interesting. So
yeah, Steve mentioned that they are doing a public playtest when we interviewed Steve for Clash of the Kings UK. So I know that they do have a public playtest coming up at Mantic headquarters. So I imagine there'll be some more stuff to come out of that.
Well, I know these folks on this live stream are like super Counter Church fans. Just kidding. But there are other podcasts, and from that we have confirmed League of Rhodia has been rolled into Kingdoms of Men. That was stated by Matt Gilbert. Orcs and Riftforge are one list now, right? So yeah, it very well may be 28-20. Might be
Rakin
might
and
not be far
slaves.
off. I
Rakin
have
and
not heard
slaves
one way or the other.
sorry,
well, actually,
it's all-
you're
No, he
correct,
did on
right?
ours. Mm.
Yeah, so he said that Rakin slaves are part of Abyssal Dwarves now, right? And to unlock
Yeah,
those
sorry,
units, you
Abyssal
have to
Dwarves,
take a
yeah.
character. Yeah. So there's 3 of them right there.
Yeah, so I don't know. We don't know. I mean, I haven't listened to the last one, Rob, where he said League of Rortia. I don't know if that means there's a character unlocking or completely gone. But slaves was definitely.
I'm going to try to
basically-
paraphrase without screwing it up. And it was like, the League of Rortia units are now available to Kingdoms of Men through what you just described.
Yeah, but I think the difference will be that it'll still be Kingdoms of Men, right? It just gives you the
Correct.
League of Rortia flavor. Mm.
Correct. Yeah. Now, one thing that was really interesting, he went out about, there was a question about, what about generic armies and will they be mantified? I don't know the verb I want to use there, but he basically said he's not ruling anything out. So there's no promises that the Kingdoms of Men won't get arranged at some point. Because in the past they've said, why would we make generic humans? Well, maybe Kingdoms of Men doesn't become, maybe they're no longer generic and they make a special range somewhere down the line. But there's so many other armies that they probably would be better off going with. Yeah.
And some of the make sense, right? And with stuff we've talked about for a long time, like orcs in Mantica, our Panathor are like cool lightning Viking orcs, right? So that's the Riftforge orcs. So I feel like some of the combinations, I don't think necessarily should be like a shock. I mean, that one that the ones that they mentioned publicly all make sense. I don't know how you guys feel, but they all make sense to me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, Jeremy. It makes sense to me. I saw a little bit of concern about the whole books thing because we've touched on it, Rob. And people referencing them as codex or whatever. We're not talking about like one army at a time, things like that. We're talking about 4, so it's not a codex, and it's every 6 months. We have the names of the book. I know that we've seen in recent years that the new armies do feel a bit hotter and harder. But this does very much feel like, frankly, for what feels like the first time ever, that there's more of an overarching plan. So I would be surprised if we saw that like on a linear curve or a parabolic curve, whatever way, on a curve upwards of power level. I'd be very surprised if that was the case.
Well, I mean, the books are narrative, right? Now, there is going to be some new elements to the armies, right? I know they use the term enhanced lists, right? So you're going to have things like commands, which, let's, you know what? Now that I mention it, let's tackle Nick Brooks' questions. He says, so based off what we saw with Command Dice being reinvented and reintegrated into the main core rules of 4th, do you have any concerns on how it's going to work? So just to refresh everybody, commands are there. You'll have to roll like you would a spell, I guess, to execute the command, but there's no command dice like we've known before.
It feels like just another spell, another casting phase almost from what I've read and heard.
Yeah,
I'm interested in what Dylan thinks of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real reason to be concerned if it's going to work or not, because it's using an established mechanic. And they kind of talked about that a little bit on, I think, the Mantic Universe episode.
You listen to other podcasts besides ours?
I listen to everything.
Good for you.
Can we
I didn't know our Kansas people
could read. Him off?
What's that?
I said, can we drop him off the stream now?
Sure.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Gad. He did it. Gad and Matthias, I think. Great job on that show. They were really
I
great,
think there's
great questions.
I think I can understand some concern about because what the perception, part of the perception was with Command Dice in its current form, right, was that there was variances in power level, right? And then if you've got things that are easier or harder to get off, and if the commands aren't equitable across the things, particularly when you put those in a broader context of how they're interacting with the game, I can understand why people would have some concern around, that you're not guaranteed it. But But what I really like is that I think the predictability of this game is what makes the best players really, really good, right? But less predictability can sometimes help the newer, less good players stay in the game for longer or feel better about things. So I like these little elements that aren't guaranteed without changing over the predictable movement mechanics of it.
Yeah. Agreed. Anybody else have any comments on command orders? I like Sean is pointing out that it does feel a little bit like some of the halfling special rules, right? With their auras and stuff.
Well, as someone who I'm on the spectrum of I want more flavor and I want more individual flavor, I want armies to feel different and have different things in them. So I love the idea, of armies having command orders and using those maybe as a method to get some of that flavor into the list. You know what I mean? So,
What flavor sauce would you pick?
What flavor sauce?
If it's sorcery like this, what would be your sauce flavor?
Something
your favorite?
Spicy. I don't know.
It's a very spicy meatball. Well, let's tackle this next thing that is intriguing to me. Now, this is from Champions, but the single nerve value. Now, in Champions, there is no wavering, so you're either fighting or you're dead, routed. So what let's turn it over to Brian and so Brian, you've played some Champions. Champions, Dylan is way too cool for Champions, right? But start with Brian. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know if I've ever read how they're gonna. So since it's not, you said there's a single nerve value, and then we can still get wavered through Devastate. Then what routes the unit? It has to be routed in combat and pass the nerve check in the new system.
Wavered was only for what I referred to was for shooting. Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest question about that statement is what happens to fearless units? Like, where does that advantage come from now? Because all the stuff that's fearless today, I don't know how that translates. So that's about it in that realm. I don't know how it translates.
Yeah, I don't know how it translates either. I think the most obvious thing would be maybe to get a higher nerve value. Yeah, not sure.
Well, they haven't actually explained how it fully works yet, right? So
right now they have it. I mean,
the other option would be to make them unwaverable, even when devastated. Yeah, but I mean that's only going to come in a minute amount of times, right?
So question, Matt, for shooting. Let's look at the blog here because I think all right. So shooting, if I remember correctly, if you beat the nerve value in shooting, the unit is wavered. If you devastate the unit and then beat the unit's route value, they're dead. Right?
Yes, sorry, that's correct. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, I think it's you can't kill a unit from shooting unless it's also devastated. Yep.
Great. Let's see. Let's take a look at this again and see what else we got on here. So unit positioning. I mean, we did get clarification. The arcs are still on the 45. I think it's interesting that the leader point's gone. That's been something that's been around since first edition, and now we're using the center point. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I don't really know if that solves really a real problem.
Well, we were already kind of doing that, right? Because of when you're charging and you can't cross on a charge, we were using the center point of the unit to show where the units were in relation to each other, right?
Yeah, because part of the referencing I saw was like the confusion about like where is the leader point previously? Like, is finding the center point in the middle of your multi-base any easier?
No, maybe not. Yeah, like, maybe not. Because at least on the leader point, you could mark a paint mark, right? You could mark it.
I mean, it's still going to require you to have intersecting lines between your corners to roughly find the center point. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not sure exactly what it achieves, but again, limited info.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of the, I'm sure everybody on this live stream, one of the frustrations is I understand on one perspective they want to drip it out to build the hype, but at the other time it's like I want to start really understanding the context, right? The bigger picture, and it's really hard to piece that together. So we're sort of in a holding pattern until we have more information. I think that's pretty much it, right? I mean, okay, we should probably talk about the big one. There's no more countercharge, right? That's gone. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
How could they do y'all like that?
Well, what are y'all going to name the podcast is the biggest question.
Well, here's the thing. I think I've explained this a couple times. We've been around since countercharge was even a thing, really, right? The podcast has. We weren't called countercharge in first edition, but we've been around since countercharge was a thing. We'll be around after countercharge isn't a thing, or be 5th, 6th edition. I mean, we've been at this for so long at this point. We're not going anywhere.
Change the name to just Always Engaged. It's fun.
Yeah. Or what is it? Retaliate, reform? What's reform, right? That's the new one.
Reform,
Yeah.
Reform and lap around.
Yeah.
Welcome
sticky
to
combat.
Reach Around.
Oh, Rob, you're on mute.
I'm such a rookie. But withdraw still a movement order in the game, so maybe. Now, what they haven't said was, can you withdraw and still charge? I don't think.
I thought they did say you can't.
Okay.
You can withdraw, but you can no longer attack another unit that turn. I thought they did say
Yes,
that.
that's right.
Okay.
They did say that. You're right, Brian.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Mm.
Any more just general comments about the game? Let's. If not, we'll talk about movement. And I think this is an area that it has somebody playing a lot of champions like myself. Like, this is an area that I actually really like. Champions has essentially the units are nimble. I think the only one where you don't get an extra pivot is if you're backing up. I'm sorry. If you're backing up, you still get a pivot. If you're moving sideways, you don't get a pivot. So now they haven't specifically said additional pivots like for which commands, but I like it. I think it makes movement a lot easier. Essentially, everybody has ordered march, which I oh yeah, good point. Good point. Mark does point out, yes, to do withdraw, you have to take a nerve test.
Yeah, but we were talking specifically about charge, though.
If all else fails, keep withdrawing, but not in Jeremy's case.
Exactly. That would be bad advice for Jeremy.
Yes.
Oh, yes. This is true.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me bring this back up. Any more comments on the extra pivots?
Yeah, I've seen this hotly debated online about, but I mean, the reality is we don't know what old nimble then becomes yet. And the fact is I don't. If everything's moving up, equity is maintained reasonably, and we just don't have the extra information. I think Alessio alluded to the fact that about it being more cinematic and dynamic, and I agree that I think that is what it'll take. It won't feel so linear, which I think is a nice thing.
And this is a perfect example of it's a different game, right? Because when you think about movement strategies, placing, space control, all those things, it's in an environment where very few things have double pivots, and now everything does. So again, that's going to be a whole nother thread that where you're going to have to play and experience to see sort of how that affects sort of the tapestry of the game. But I think this is a one of the more substantial changes to the movement phase.
Yeah. So Dan has a question. What do you guys think of removing wavering? Does that make does that make combat more? Now, have they specifically said you can't waver in combat?
I don't think they've declared that'll be a thing. What I wonder is more likely, only having the limited information, is with only a single nerve value, does it make the impact of luck more powerful? Because it's those two high nerve rolls potentially take off your unit, whereas one's slightly before. But I mean, you're probably going to have to roll higher numbers, so maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure it makes it more deterministic.
I think too, with sticky combat the way it is now, that's something that's unique to us. We have never had sticky combat, right? In any edition of Kings of War, we've always had a bounce backer, something where we disengage from each other. Am I wrong?
No,
It wasn't. Were you disengaging before?
It wasn't
the end
called
of combat?
disengage.
Well, I guess if you wanted to, yeah, you could stay engaged.
Only
but
if you were doing
but what I'm
something
saying
else.
is, I'll say it a
At the
different
finish
way.
of combat, you were engaged.
You
Yeah.
now don't have a choice to go
Yes.
charge somebody else, right? Like you either charge what you get there, or you run away and you withdraw
Yeah.
and you take a nerve test, right?
We haven't had sticky combat that carries over turns, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a good question. What I don't understand is like the whole Brian, you mentioned that too. The whole fearless thing. What does that mean for us, right? I don't know. Let's just hope it doesn't go back to Warhammer where if you automatically outnumber them and you cause terror, they automatically rout. Let's just hope that's not a thing.
Maybe
Dylan's
fearless
laughing
is
because
the
we've been
new-
beat by that
maybe-
before.
Maybe causing fear is the new dread
Maybe.
and interacts with
Maybe.
fearless. Mm.
Yeah, and withdraw. Yeah, you definitely cannot charge another unit, which I think is awesome. Now, let's talk about one of the more. Is it controversial? I don't know if it's controversial, but it did make me think about when I read the word wraparound. I think they called it lapping around in Warhammer, right? Where you could take 5 models, take a rank, and move to the side. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I think this solves the age-old problem that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Today, if you're engaged on the front, it's a front charge. Unless you withdraw and then you charge the flank if you're in their flank, but you're at -1 to hit. Now, this helps the fact that you can only have 2 on a flank, right? Or on a frontage.
Yeah.
And so
you
now
you didn't have to withdraw, but it was all based on where your leader point was. So if you countercharged, it was always into the same facing. You could declare a new charge previously, which would take you into whatever facing that your leader point was in. But
So it's not that much
yeah,
different then.
or you could also do the withdrawals. So I think this is a simplification and feels it feels more cinematic and correct, I think.
But also the wraparound, the way I'm reading it is I think it allows you to get into a flank. So if in that right diagram, if D was further up, your horde was that way, and even closer to you can pick up and still get in the flank, where today you couldn't because that unit would be in your way. Now you can just pick up and drop it like units move through it, which you couldn't do in today. You could block the counter charge today. In this game, you're about to just wrap around to the side as long as there's room to place you.
But on the other side of that coin, though, something we could do before that we can no longer do is address Unit D to begin with. Because for this situation to occur, that means C has already survived a round of combat. And so likely Unit A could finish off Unit C, and then we would want to withdraw Unit B to address Unit D. But now we are losing a round of combat on Unit D in this situation, basically.
Yeah, the only way you can address it is via a reform, and then that doesn't give you a round of combat. From what I read, yeah. So you lose that. Yeah, 100%, 100%. That's it, and which is a significant change.
Let's answer Dwayne's question. Yes, it's a pick and place, not a pivot. And Dan brings up that's probably going to give us some weird stuff. And here's the thing. It's always been a thing, guys. For those who don't know, if you make contact with a corner and you have some crazy blocking terrain, the unit gets picked up and teleported to the right spot. I got Brad McKay smashed my rear-ended because I didn't know that was a thing. And he just
They're not
spread me off the table.
teleported. It's a brick of people. They just spread out. And
I know,
like the knee
but literally, like I thought I blocked it, but you just pick it up and you just put it in the spot. So
I don't. You talking about
Well-
blocking terrain? I think.
Yeah, I think there's just a
If you can't fit flush on the.
no, if you can't fit flush, but if you can fit somewhere else, you literally will pick it up and it'll move past the blocking terrain to fit.
But not non-flyers. I don't.
no. It still has to be touching where it made contact previously.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think
But if you
you-
hit a corner,
yeah.
that's both sides, right? The corner's both sides, and you pick and place. If there's a place for you to land.
Yes, in that spot. No, I think what it sounded like you were saying that is if the blocking terrain was, say, in the middle of that flank of C, that B could then transport all the way to the other side of the...
Oh no, right?
of-
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So-
I mean, again, we've only got partial information on the movement phase, right? So I think I think this is what we're seeing in most of these blogs is probably what's very likely in that basic rules area, and then we'll get explanation of the more complex interactions in the advanced rules bit.
By the
And
way,
I mean, you can imagine, I guess, if I'm like talking with Ronnie, you're in Ronnie's vision board. What do you think are the sort of parts of games that like he doesn't like, right? You know, what do you mean? Oh, you're charging my individual in a corner and thus you twirl around and move over here. So if your individual is not over here, I can technically, you know, there's a lot of, I think, areas in third edition. If you know the math and you know the situation, you know how to, I don't want to say take advantage of newer players, but you get to do things that players don't know how to do it until it's done to them, right? Because it's not clear in the rules. Right?
geometry's a bitch.
That's what I'm saying. So
That's what you're saying. Okay.
I think they've spoken to in all of their podcasts of wanting to remove certain of those elements. And I think it is removing tools in toolboxes, right? It's a tool that you don't have anymore. But then that's when I think you ask that question are having tools that maybe are unfun for people, is that good for the overall health of the game? Or if you remove a tool to make the game more fun, but maybe there's other tools that we don't even realize exist yet because we haven't learned how to build this new building. So I just think, again, it speaks to that. You got to wait to see the whole game.
Let's take Sean's combat. Yeah, if you kill a unit, then there's still the reform stuff. The going forward, just I think it's very similar to what we've had in the past. What do you guys think about this, though? No more staying an inch away. When, I like it. That so many times, like, look, I'll be the biggest jerk off. Well, you can't do that because you would go within an inch of my unit. Like, it's just gone. If you can fit, you can fit. Right? That's laughing because he knows I would do that to him.
Without knowing, again, taking for what we know, it does give flyers that are able to jump and land behind your lines or on the side of your lines more. It makes it harder to stop that because you can use the inch of weight to solidify where stuff can land. Now you got to be even more precise to stop that.
Except for the fact that we know that it now doesn't exist, so people will just put their units closer. Yeah.
It makes you compact all your lines, basically, because now you don't have as much room to play with.
I'm wondering if this actually, considering the other change to combats, if this actually might create more problems than it solves. Because if you don't have to stay an inch away, if you're bumping into a unit, now that unit looks like it's engaged. Are those situations we're going to see? I don't know.
Good question. Yeah. Just remember, you're not engaged because it says right here that you got to make it clear to both players they are not engaged unless they've charged. So there is that.
It's an opportunity for a new acrylic token to have in your set, so we can.
Oh, come on, Brian. We don't always with the bling. Always with the bling.
Because to your point, to Dylan's point, you're gonna have to make it very clear that I'm here, but I'm not engaged. Because if not, there could be confusion.
But that's kind of like. That was kind of like my point, I guess, is to what problem was it is that solving? Like, if I still have to leave a gap, so we know they're not engaged. I mean, what's the number?
Just makes movement easier.
Yeah.
So you don't have to care about. You don't care. You can just walk around the unit. You can get I guess there would be less movement blocking. You won't be able. It'll be a lot more difficult to lock in units.
I personally like it. I was just kind of playing devil's.
You're just playing devil's advocate. Okay. I like that.
I got a movement-related question. I think, didn't we see a couple of example profiles where was it the Berserkers? They showed an example profile or something with if that's the final profile, something like a speed reduction. Do you think we're going to get a bit of a global speed reduction, including the flyers?
There was one in Champions. Like cavalry and flyers are like speed 6. So, yeah, in Champions.
I wonder if, can you imagine if dwarfs are speed 2 now or something?
I would love it. I would love it. So, Dylan, Dwayne had a question for you. Was your point about charge blocking? It's okay you tell him he's completely wrong and he misinterpreted what you said. He'd be okay with that.
Dylan, wasn't your point basically like whether it's 25 mil or 1 mil, it's still a number that you kind of debate. Is it 1 mil away or is it 25 mil away?
Yeah, I was asking
Yeah.
like, why can't we just still have like a universal standard number? Because it just said it leaves room for ambiguity when you just say, just make it clear that they're not engaged, but you can still like have that unit contacting another.
So maybe
unit.
just say it's got to be 2 millimeters off.
I mean, that's I mean,
We can get little Brian. We can make some little tokens to go down there and measure the 2 millimeters.
Or if they were worried about simplifying movement, they could have said
Yeah.
you don't have to be an inch away when you're moving past the unit. So you can still get the freedom of movement around, but you have to finish an inch away.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
So a good point that Adrian's making. You know, I mentioned champions have reduced speed. Obviously, that's a 42-inch by 24-inch table, right? So
Yeah, and I think if it was a global reduction of speed, it's funny that some of these things that Alessio talks, and this is a big if it is, you know, that he talks about, he believes make them a bit more cinematic in feel, is I think a reduction in speed comparatively takes away from that. It's like when we had been talking about playing 10 mil kings, we were going to keep the stat profiles the same.
I did.
So
I
that,
do.
like,
That's how I play.
Yeah,
it.
so that when you move your tiny little dragon 20
They're
mil,
flying quick, man.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
going 20
Yeah.
inches, baby, all the way
Yeah.
across the table. And the bases are so small, the pivots don't even matter. Like, who cares? Like, literally,
I don't think a global reduction in speed is going to happen.
Says the guy that plays a bunch of dragons. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think the Berserkers, I think if they come out with Speed 7, I think you can thank the guys that are running 6 hordes and 4 regiments in their
Oh, they deserve it. I'm going to be honest with you. Though, man, to be fair, I'm playing against a modest amount with just 3 hordes, and it's already hard to deal with. They're so fast.
it is hard to
well, let's
imagine them moving so fast, especially compared to cavalry, right? How fast does like something on foot's legs have to move to outrun a horse?
100%. So let's talk about this. Obviously, I do like some of the really simplifications, like moving from range to shoot in terms of the stat on your block. You know, they did it in Champions, and it just makes sense. When I'm teaching somebody the game, this is your shoot value. When sometimes I would say this is your range value, like, is that how far I shoot? You know, I think it's much more clear when you say shoot. I think everybody knows what that means. Again, line of sight is from the No More Leader Point, which I think we've touched on a little bit. We've talked about height. This is a big one, guys, and this is in Champions as well. Is that if you give a halt command, you get +1 for shooting, right? And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I want your guys to take my 2 cents on this. And again, I'll say the same caveat we said all along. Like, this is not with it. We don't know the context, right? So we could be. I might be making assumptions here that are completely off base, but it feels like this is a stealth nerf on Glade Stalkers. The units that could move and have steady aim and back up and continue to shoot you, it's not a thing anymore. So if now they hit on 5s and they have to stand still to get on 4s, like, that's a big change. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Or a potential buff if Scout still exists.
Potentially.
So like
but,
those would cancel each other out, I'd imagine.
so,
in
but
a
if
way.
you hit on 5s, does it go to 4s? If you have a unit of crossbowmen, now that might be a thing.
That's where I was going. Is like, until we see, I'm assuming with that rule change, they're gonna have to adjust some of the hit.
Well, they do say it. They do say
question
that.
is what the new values are.
Yeah, they did say the values have changed, right, to accommodate.
I'd imagine that it's mostly about improving the units that do have shoot 5+, right? So that now it no longer feels so terrible, and so gives you a reason to take the 5+ units. Although it's not global, because I doubt it'll apply to war machines.
Well, yeah. So that's a good point. How is this? I mean, yeah. There's no way it applies to war machines, right? my Malport launchers are going to hit
God,
on
I hope
3s.
not with your current list. Yeah, that would be rough if it applies.
Well,
to
Hey,
I'd
only if the
imagine
Iron
they would
Sky's in
all-
place. I mean, 3s hit re-rolling 1s. I'll take that.
I'd imagine they'll have to exclude all war machines, because aren't your war trombones a war machine? God, I wouldn't want +1
Yeah, they're
on those bad boys.
Well, technically,
Yeah.
Matt, we're not playing Warhammer, so they're called war engines. But yes, Adrian brings up a good point. I think we were just talking about some of that, the reload and steady aim. It'll be interesting to see if those are still rules. I don't think they will be. right? I think they're doing this change.
Well, Reload basically already disappeared, didn't it?
Except for War Engines. That's the only one that has.
Oh, you can still have steady aim. You just wouldn't get the minus for moving. You wouldn't get the plus. You wouldn't get the minus. So steady aim still fits in that rule change.
Okay.
Because instead of when moving, you can still steady aim would still make sense.
Yeah, but I think the intent here, and this be just conjecture here, they're going to move Glade Stalkers to hitting on 5s. If you hold them still, they're going to be hitting on. Yeah, so they can move and shoot, but they're hitting on 5s. Right? But if you want to hit on 4s, you got to stand still. Interesting. Yeah, and Dan brings up a good point as well, right? We're talking about this, but the reality is they're not going to be as devastating as they have been in the past. So it may be okay that they get a little extra power through. Because you got a devastated unit to route it. Or actually, I think Adrian pointed out, somebody pointed out that it's not called devastated, it's called decimated now. But essentially the same thing. There's a new rule. Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily, I wouldn't expect hitting and wounding more frequently to necessarily be a thing. I mean, it's based on everything I've read. What they want to incentivize is balanced lists. And so they want the shooting to soften priority targets.
Spoken like an Australian.
To enhance the combat phase. So I don't really, considering they're toning down shooting, I wouldn't expect them to buff hit profiles and wounding profiles on those same units.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian, at Forge GT, I'm going to have to pour one out for my homies, though, because I got all those War Engines, and I don't see a reason to have. We'll see. Maybe
you're going out with a bang. The last third edition tournament in the States, he's going literally.
Hey, let's not overstate it. I've only got 7 War Engines.
That's it.
I only have 7.
Only 7.
And they're goblins, so they're terrible.
Yeah, that's it. Only 7.
And they're pussycats, as we've described.
Well, the question is, do you have any more painted?
Listening early, I did beat Rob against that list.
You did. They're all painted, Jeremy.
You have more painted. I say you turn it up to 11 War Machines.
Oh,
you just take them all.
Rock throwers. You have some rock throwers. And technically, Michigan GT, if Matt Temple is listening, the lists aren't due till the 2nd, so I have time to paint more.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is unlocking them, because, I mean, a horde only gets me 1.
Think about Rabble and War Machines. It's fine. Just make it happen.
Like I said on the episode, Rob, it seems like they're only invalidating wankers lists.
Correct. Or Alan Beaton, who's not a wanker, but his list is.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, for sure. I think that's they talk a little bit about magical missiles and some of the changes there. I think I like the fact they're going to streamline it to the point where now everything is just going to take cover. Right. I think it's what it sounds like. Both spells hit on 4+, but magical missiles hit on 5+. So spells, heal, that kind of stuff are 4+, but if you have a magical missile, I assume would be lightning bolt, fireball, etc. Those will hit on 5s and cover. I think that's good.
I don't cast a whole. As y'all said earlier, I play a lot of melee enabled lists. But doesn't fireball have shatter today?
It does already have shattering.
All right, just make sure I wasn't crazy.
But it doesn't have blast D3.
Gotcha.
So my understanding, my thoughts around the whole point of this category is so that we no longer have to have a table of what takes cover and what doesn't. It's either a magic missile or it's not. What I am interested in with that kind of naming convention is, it probably remains that some of these spells, like there's still going to be a hell of a lot that, maybe should have been considered for cover that won't get it.
No, I think if it's an offensive spell that you shoot to do damage, I think it's going to be considered a magic missile, and you're going to take cover, and or stealthy. That's my
right.
That's my theory.
I would have personally had I don't know what it would be. I would have thought up some sort of other naming convention then, because like a missile, it has quite specific connotations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do talk a little about the arcane library, right, guys? They give some examples. So it just sounds like if you have the spellcaster trait, you could now take them. And it doesn't matter what level you are, you just pay more for the different levels, which I'm fine with. I don't think there's much change there. So let's jump to any final thoughts on shooting in general, guys?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the naming of magical missiles. I'm not sure that it might cause some confusion. It leaves things open to like things that should have that tag to take cover to not have that tag. So I think they should. It to me, it should just be if your spell does damage, it should hit on 5s and cover.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a special name.
Well, it's kind of funny because magic missiles in D&D don't miss, but magic missiles in here have cover, which I think is kind of interesting.
Do you guys remember the dark days of 2nd edition when we just had breath weapons and everything hit on force, and people would take like Ratkin armies and it would just it literally would annihilate you because it didn't matter if you were an individual, right? I believe it always hits on force. Didn't care about stealth. I don't even know if stealthy was a thing. Yeah, it was probably a thing back then.
And there was so much of it. Dragons, you know.
Yeah. Yep. And it was just like, blah, here's 150 shots. Here's 75 hits. And some of it had piercing. Yeah. So I think in general, it's pretty cool that, as I think back to it, shooting has become less and less and less. I don't want to say significant. It plays a role. But in 1st edition, I mean, you guys are going to be like, Rob, you told me this story 100 times. Yes. My very first game of Kings of War competitively was Shannon Shoemaker at Adepticon. He had, I'm going to make this up, but it was probably 9 or 10 or 11. I don't know. It didn't matter. It had enough that his Kingdoms of Men list completely annihilated my undead army before it crossed, because I'm shambling halfway across the table. All gone. Literally the only thing that made it was the werewolves, and then they died too when they got there. So over time, they have slowly softened it up, and I think this is a chef's kiss for me. I think even though I am filthy from time to time and have been known to take war engines and some shooting, I think this is going to be good to maybe make shooting. It's going to carve out a role within the game where it does incentivize taking. I would actually argue it will incentivize you to take some shooting where you might not in the past, but not more shooting than you need to just soften up units as they come in. I don't know. I like it, but again, I'm out of context here, so I could be completely off base.
Well, I think that change does go hand in hand with the changes to charges. How you can only hit a unit, a single arc with 2 units. So there won't be any more cav regiment, flying horde, and a hero going into the front of one unit and taking it off. You'll have to choose one of those units to not be included. So does that incentivize taking a ranged battle group instead of all Alpha Strike? Do you shave some of that off to be able to put out some wounds before your Alpha Strike gets there? I think that's what they're really going for.
Yeah, I have a question though. I have a little use case that I was thinking about. So today, if I have some shooting and I'm in combat, somebody gets away, they got 9 wounds and they break on a 13. I'm making this up. They're running away. I can't get to them on foot. I could shoot and test their weight, and then maybe pop them. But now I have to devastate them.
Yeah, but I mean, in that case, if you're on mop up, if you're cleaning up, how many more wounds do you have to do for
Good point. I mean, if it's a real unit, you might have to do 7 or 8, which for some units it's not easy, right? Because you'll probably have cover penalties. And Matt, what's the over under? Is obscured and concealed gone? They didn't say it yet.
It is so gone. Yeah.
It's just going to be covered. Maybe they'll go back to 1st edition when we had hard and soft cover.
If it looks the same as it does in this current version, I will appear nude on a live stream. That is for sure.
Yeah, we got that recorded.
Hey, Jeremy's going to make a baby for sure now.
Yeah. I heard he needed a bit of, mood stuff on the TV.
Just from hearing Alessio talk and like kind of his thought processes, I highly doubt that he liked that at all. And I'm pretty sure he did not include that in 4th.
Well, let's
Yeah,
jump in.
I can't remember if there was something on terrain, but it really felt like you're either in cover or you're not, I think is what we're going to get, you know?
Well, let's jump in and talk about combat. Just like I think I like the way they've, speed is used in the movement phase, shooting is used in the range phase, and melee is used in the combat phase. Wait, or as Jeremy would say, the melee phase? Is that what it's called? We're losing Jeremy. He's drifting.
No, I mean, you guys just give me so much shit. Sometimes it's like white noise.
I thought he was just thinking about the activities he has to do later.
And I just space you guys out.
Yeah, he's focused on the future.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't paint your models.
He's doing
too many metaphors.
Yeah, he's doing. Hey, we love the metaphors. He's just doing mental practice.
So let's tackle reform, because I think this is really interesting. Today you have countercharge, and you can turn to face different units. And I think countercharge is gone, so people are like, well, crap, I can't turn to face, I can't allocate attacks against those units. But reform allows you to turn to face if you're only engaged on one flank, right? But even if you're still in this position, you can still allocate attacks to those units, right? You don't just, or do you only attack to the front?
My understanding is you can allocate your attacks across any unit you're engaged with.
Correct, right?
So if you're in an A spot and you know those two units are going to die, you don't want to, but you can still reform it. You can. Yeah, you can still reform it. So I don't know what it gains.
But my point is, like, even if there's a second unit behind you or a third unit behind you, you can still allocate your attacks regardless. So you can't reform, but you are still attacking them, if that makes sense. Because countercharge lets you reform and attack. Now that you don't need to reform to attack those units.
Well, in scenario A, if you don't reform and you decide to allocate your attacks to those two units and you only kill one of them,
yeah, they're going to kill.
You can get flanked again.
Correct.
Because you didn't turn in face. So it's going to be a decision maybe on what you can kill by allocating your attacks, depending on how many attacks you have, things like that.
Yeah, we covered this one as well. Sticky combats. Really interesting that you can withdraw, but you have to take a nerve test. I think that's interesting.
I'm going to mention it again. I love the split attacks. So now if you have a big old unit with 30 attacks and you got two units about to die, in current state you can only kill one. Now you can drop them both off of your front, which I think is a good change.
So if my mop-up launchers loads my luggets with dogs and I'm going in hindered, I can put the dogs on a unit that has ensnare and in cover, or make me hindered, and I'm still going to hit on force. I'll take it.
Yeah, I like the split attacks quite a bit.
Me too. What about nerve? Let's talk about that. The nerve test where we are doomed, which is double sixes, right? So before it would cause a wavering if you didn't route them, but now it causes additional damage, which that's never been a thing before, right? So
so that's basically saying that wavering's not a thing in combat, right? That's an assumption from that comment, right? Is that's likely to happen, which, I mean, wavering always felt a bit dumb that you could basically do nothing back, right? So it seems like what they've done is, because you could get over the nerve value from a double six roll, right? So instead of being able to do nothing, you take extra damage, but then it'll be whether it devastates you or not, and on how much you can do back, instead of just removing the ability to essentially do anything,
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments on the nerve? I mean, I'm glad to see Snake Eyes still here. I like it. I think it's an important part of the game. Victory options. I mean, okay. The word yielding is used here, Brian, so I guess that's still a thing. Right? So a little confused what it says, and of course an overrun is still possible if the unit ahead is yielding. So I guess what they're saying is yielding doesn't still block charges, right? Yeah. Or an overrun charge.
So it uses the word unit and not
hero
or character. So does that mean some small cheap units are going to be...
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be neat.
Orklings, for example, maybe. Could be.
Maybe the chaff becomes yielding, which would make chaff useless. That's just a bad joke.
I think heroes were always referred to as units as well, in the context of like casting on friendly units or things like that.
They were all yielding unless they had the mighty rule.
Yeah,
Right.
and again, with the bigger character bases, if things are mighty still in your heroes, then you can block a lot more stuff, so to speak, with your
Yeah.
bigger units.
I still think it's still a thing. Yielding.
I can't exactly, and I can't remember if it was on our show or whether I read it somewhere that they alluded to basically factors related to an individual remain a thing. So yielding
Right,
likely
okay.
being one of those things. Yeah.
Do they still get the free pivots? It's going to be a lot harder to pivot a 40 millimeter base than a 20 millimeter base.
Is it?
I think so.
It's still a square.
I mean, when you're
You just
sticking
gotta
like a
be-
little
you just
goblin
gotta-
guy in the middle of a bunch of units, like you're going to have to spread those guys out a little bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to spread a bit more. Yeah.
I don't know, guys. We've been talking about hype and all the cool. What do we not like? I mean, this isn't perfect, right? So what Dylan, we'll start with you. What's one thing you're like, I'm going to poo-poo on that?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like. If I had to pick one, it would be the being able to come within an inch and not charging.
So we got some people here. Dan doesn't like Jeremy. This is what Jeremy was going to say. Only 2 units into a facing. So Jeremy, you want to expand on why you dislike that?
I mean, I get the conceptual of it, and Matt, you spoke to it before, and I would say it makes sense, right? If you're trying to design and write rules for charging and multi-charging and unit positioning, and you know the max, right? It can only be 2. That makes sense, right? It's a little bit more streamlined. I think if you used to be able to do something in a game and then you can't do it anymore, when you're first doing the new game, that sort of feels bad, right? Where maybe you might have a situation where I have 3 units in front of you, only 2 units can charge you, and the third unit's doing nothing, right? That at first doesn't feel super great. It's like, what's my unit doing? However, I imagine that becomes another element of strategy, right? Is managing what 2 units are going to charge, what's your backup unit. So I think as some strategical elements are removed to streamline rules, this new game system has introduced us. Maybe there's going to be new strategy. So that could be a whole nother level of strategies. How do I manage my 2 units charging a facing? So I didn't love it at first, but I wonder if that's going to, the more games we play, maybe that will become an element of strategy,
Matt, how about you? I mean, let's be honest. If anybody here is ready to shit on something, it's Matt.
Nah, I did one before coming on air.
Okay,
So
fair
good.
enough.
Yeah. So good. Very,
I'm not into
very
that kind of-
relieving. Yeah. So, I don't think I've seen anything that I've hated. There's obviously stuff that you like that I'm like, oh, I wonder how that interacts. One nerve value being one of them, and wondering if that's potentially an oversimplification instead of maybe changing the wavering mechanic. Yeah, but otherwise, I haven't seen anything that I've hated.
Brian, he does not hate anything.
Well,
He works for St. Jude, so he's not allowed to hate. He's not allowed to hate anything.
well,
You even have a St. Jude shirt on. Look
yeah,
at that.
I was
What a
at work.
homer.
I was at work all day today. Sorry.
Yeah.
One of my biggest things is that y'all know, for the guys that know me, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I just like to roll dice. I like to play and have fun. So my biggest, maybe not biggest poo-poo, because I like most of the changes. I think it's cool. I'm a person that likes changes. I like to learn the new systems. I like to see how it interacts. My biggest concern is the reason I play Kings of War is the community. And I'm scared what Fourth does to the community. And I hope everybody keeps an open mind, because that's why I play. The guys we hang out with in the tournaments, and that's the fun part of it. So that's kind of one of my biggest fears of Fourth.
Yeah, that's a good one. Anybody else? Jeremy, anybody else want to chime in? Any other things you're not super excited about?
I will say the stuff that I didn't like was the more wild, and I won't say what they were, but Alessio spoke to it, right? The wildness that was tested at the beginning, that let's throw everything against the wall. Some of those wacky things. But again, to me, that speaks to even if the boat is on fire, I think Mantic's pretty good about listening to people, let them know where the fire is, and then they go put it out, right? So even if things, come out that you don't like, it doesn't mean that they won't ever get changed or can't ever be changed. And in general, I think there's way more positive than there is negative. But to speak to what it is a different game, right? So we're going to have to learn, any new addition, the game, I think this is going to be probably more a different game than 3 was to second, is my guess. Again, I haven't seen, this is speaking just in what people have heard because I haven't seen the final game yet. But I imagine this will be the feeling will feel more different. And some people will like it. Some people won't. Maybe you don't like it and then grow to like it. Maybe you like it and grow to dislike it. So to speak to what Brian said, just try. I mean, play games when it comes out, give it a fair shake. Because you never know what you're going to fall in love with,
Well, let's chat a little bit about command orders. What's interesting is I actually like, and I know Dylan, we liked command orders, right? It was fun. We were rolling some dice. We had a little resource pool we had to manage, but it did add some spice. I don't hate what they did here. And I will say the one complaint I always had about command orders, like at some point you don't need auras, spells, magical artifacts, commands to all do the same thing. So at least they've kind of described the command orders as replacing special army rules. So that's good, right? Like if they're replacing something we already had in the game, so we're not redundant. I think it's interesting. It's a little bit like, so in Champions, you can place a command on any unit on the table, right? I don't believe there's any range. You can't place it on your own hero. But in this one, you basically can say any unit, well, obviously not routed. Okay. But you can attempt to issue in the movement phase on any friendly units within 12 inches. What's interesting is you have to roll for it now. So I think I don't know what to think about that. And I also think it's interesting that if you have what's called it's warlords and champions. So if you have a champion, which I guess would be like the prince or the hero, right? And then the lord character or the warlord character would be a little bit more buffed up. So you got, I don't know what the values are, but like the champions roll 2d6 against the target value and warlords get 3d6. I like it. It does differentiate. It gives you a reason to maybe take more of those powerful things. But again, it's more about, I think it's very on point to call this an army special rule because you're not paying for it. It's just there, right? If you have, and we'll get to battalions and champion. I expect we're gonna have to have at least one hero in the list. I think, But what do you guys think about commands?
Well, anything that can add in, like I said, army flavor is good. And if you've played Firefight, what they're writing here and describing here is similar to how command orders work in Firefight. In Firefight, certain commanders may have orders that are only specific to them, right? It's not like any commander can use this order. You have generic ones and specific ones, but it makes where you place your commander on your battlefield super tactical, right? Not only right now, a lot of it's where do I want to put my leader for what? Inspiring, right? That's what you're thinking about. Or maybe if it's a combat character or a spellcaster, you're thinking, but having your commanders be little nexuses of army flavor, I think that is a fantastic idea. I think it leads for when future. It's another knob for balance tweaking. Maybe you feel a faction's a little weak or whatever. Let's tune up their command orders. Or maybe it's a little too strong. Let's tune down. So for what I'm wanting in the game, which is more army specific flavor, but that is still within that easy to use. The Kings of War, right? Easy to learn, hard to master, simple roll, do a command order, but where's my commander be? Where do I want him to, I need inspiring over here, but I really need to get this order out. I think it's super cool.
I was actually one of the few that didn't mind the command orders they introduced at the end of third. My only complaint with them was one, they were in balance, Furious Charge, anybody that's wondering. But taking the dice out, so I don't have to track another set of dice, and it's just another spell cast roll that's in the normal flow of the game, and it's not some other command points I got to keep track of, I think is a good improvement. And I agree with you, Rob. The fact that they get the 2D versus 3D is probably going to incentivize to bring some of the more army specific heroes, like the bigger pointed heroes, versus always bringing cheap ones and putting spells on them. So I think it may lead to more flavor on the table of what units show up.
And you want your big characters to feel impactful, right? You want your toys on the battlefield to do stuff. That's why we play this game, and why it's okay for a unit to be good, right? It's okay we want to have so the idea that a commander not only has a little bit better stat line, but is going to get you that key order that you need, at that right time. To me, that's adding in the drama that I think make people want to play war games. And that's something like what you said, Rob, having a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of drama, a little bit of you not quite sure what's going to happen. I think that can increase the appeal of a game system and not always be the enemy to balance, right?
Unpredictability can foster those moments where the unexpected happens and Brian destroys Dylan Scribner on the table and the world rejoices that, the usurper has been put down. Right?
Yeah, but then you talk to the super hyper competitive players, and we have a few around here that don't like the RNG aspects being added, even in the light of flavor.
Yeah,
so it's that trying to balance that, right?
And
there is a tension between the two, right? But there's got to be a middle ground that we can find where it's somewhat everyone gets something out of it,
And that's what
go ahead, Rob.
Good. No, I was going to say that's what I was talking about earlier. When at the very beginning of the show, we talked about, what I really want is maybe a more diversity of voice from the community feeding into Mantic, right? I think there's a tendency to maybe look at the more engaged players, which are going to be more tournament focused. Those, and I'm stereotyping here, obviously, but I would say they're probably they want more deterministic play. They don't like the double ones. Like, there's just things like that. They want to have more control over what happens on the table. They want it to be more player skill and less random output of dice. That being said, that's one voice of many, and I think we need more. We've got to have some of this juice, man, because that is the reason why I don't play chess. I play Kings of War, right?
Perfect example, Rob. I've been playing in a lot of MCP tournaments on the side, and that game, like Dead Zone, has exploding dice. And the best players in that game are still the people who win tournaments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but in certain moments, it's like, yes, I had this one thing go well. So even though I'm going to get smoked, I have this one morsel of a thing to hold on to.
Big surprise. Adam Ballard's going to beat me 99 times out of 100.
Well, I think everybody on this channel that's played games, Kings of War, and I'm the newest guy in this group. Some of the best moments is when a snakes happens. Like, that's when you hear people screaming in the tournament, high-fiving, freaking out because something crazy happened. Yeah, it's random, but it livens up the game and makes everybody engaged. I like snakes. I think they're great. When it happens to me, it's terrible, but it livens every game, in my opinion.
But you take it like a man, I have to say. You're just like, it is what it is.
You know me. I win, lose. I'm having fun regardless.
Yeah. Let's jump to this other... Go ahead, Dylan.
I was just going to say, I've never heard anyone complain about Snake Eyes when it was their opponent rolling them.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Valid point.
So in this other section, they use the word battalion. So, complete conjecture. We have no knowledge. What the hell is a battalion? And we're going to find out today or tomorrow. Matt already knows because it's the future. But
I think you bring one of your warlords, your champions, and it unlocks certain options to battle.
Well, is it, or is it a battalion is a warlord and 3 specific units? Is it a new formation?
That's another way.
I don't know. Or does a battalion require? I'm going to make this up. 3 core, 1 auxiliary. Or, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, because it says you have to have 1 to 2 battalions in a 20, up to 3,000 points.
Yeah, which is where most tournaments are going to live.
Each battalion can be 1,500 points, right? So it must not even have limits. So I will say, I didn't answer that question. What's the one thing that I'm a little nervous about? I don't know if we've addressed, and maybe I'm wrong. I want spam to be reduced. We don't self-regulate very well. especially some pockets of the world, including here, including myself. I just need to be told I don't need to take 9 war engines.
7 war engines. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like literally, like make it a rule, and I'm stuck, right? And so that's the one area that I'm really, really eager to see tomorrow what they're gonna tell us. And I really hope, Jeremy, we get to do a deep dive with Alicio and Matt
It's
about
probably the biggest reveal I was looking forward to is the army building, because I'm with Rob. I would like to see Spam's list die and not happen anymore. So I've been waiting for this reveal. That's my biggest one I've been waiting for on the building.
And that's something I can't wait to talk to you guys about once it is reviewed.
What a jerk! You see that? Yeah. It was almost Jeff Swan humble brag level.
Yeah.
I know something you don't know, and I can't tell you.
I wish I could tell you guys, but I know everything. You don't know nothing.
That's Cartman. I like it. I like you, Cartman.
I don't know. The more I do Jeff, the more he evolves into a Cartman. I guess.
It's definitely. I got a lot of Cartman vibes there, Jeremy. A lot of Cartman.
It's okay. Seriously, guy.
Let's get caught up on a few comments. Mark, always be Mark. I love Mark, the man of the man of statements. We moved from first to second, then second to third. So now it's time to go from third to fourth. I mean, that's how numbers work.
In the end zone, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, if you move the ball 10 yards, that's a first down.
Yeah. Adrian says, I think the army building rules are going to be very similar to how. Yeah, I think the way they define different units, and they've talked a little bit about that on one of the podcasts about the definition of what's core, auxiliary support, that kind of thing. So that's when we talk about army lists. To me, that's going to be interesting because I'm looking at Dylan, but like, okay, where are the Corsairs? They're not going to be core, bro. Or are they core if you take Firebrand? I don't know. So it's going to be interesting. And again, do we even take Corsairs now? Do we even want 18-inch range shooting? I don't know. Like, is that even a thing? I don't know. So. Mark has another interesting, is the battalion equal to a Kings of War army box? I don't know. Like, a current small army is not 1,000 points. But they're basically saying here, 1 to 2 battalions on a 6.4 table. Yeah. Some survive better than others. I will say that. Some survive better than others. Yeah. But anyways, what are you guys' thoughts on? I mean, any more thoughts on construction of armies?
I think it's going to be exciting to see what battalions actually are. Like there's actually so many things they can do. They can attach characters to it. Like, you only get this character if you take a battalion of certain units.
Or vice versa. You only get specific units if you take that warlord or that champion.
My gut feelings, that's where they're going. Where you got to take certain heroes to take certain units.
But somewhere I thought I heard they said that you probably you'd have a lot less characters. But that might be just more pointed towards the spammy guys that have a bunch of cheap individuals with lightning bolt or whatever weakness. Ed, thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, we appreciate it. It's funny. For those that are listening to this in the future, I mean, hopefully you enjoyed it. And I will say we have a lot more content coming. And I will also say, to Mantic's credit, they're very engaged. They're very organized this time, right? And that's not always been the case with Mantic. Mantic is a fitting description for that company, right? Jeremy, what do we sometimes call them? Two raccoons in a trench coat, right? Right,
filled with passion,
yes.
Exuberance that sometimes you get so excited you forget to dot the I's and cross the T's.
They get themselves stuck in the trash can
a little bit sometimes.
But we definitely really excited to have more content with them coming down the pipe. And huge shout out to Matt and to Alicio.
Yeah, they made the rounds, man. They went to
They did. They really put in the work. Yeah. And just thankful some of the podcasts had. Go ahead, Dylan. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just caught this thing. In Legendary Games, it says you can have 2 warlords instead of 1 per battalion. So in a normal game,
1 warlord.
Yeah. So if you only have 1 battalion in your list, you only have 1 warlord.
Okay, interesting. So a battalion just must be the warlord's retinue, right? Sort of. it probably doesn't. Maybe so. Again, my concern is please stop the spam. It's not even a balance thing as much as I just don't want to play against 5 of the same unit. 6. I like it when I'm like, oh, if I charge like that, I have choices. I could charge this unit. I could shoot that unit. Which one has stealthy? I don't want to shoot that unit. Right?
Well, I can tell you how many times as like a combined arms player that the 2 units that took me 7 years to paint in my army, they get nerfed because someone takes 11 of them. And once you take 11, they become too good, so they get nerfed. So my 2 are even that much worse that I have in my
Yeah,
army.
please stop. Please stop.
I'm with you.
So to
I'm
me,
with you.
I'm just like, me too, Rob. Anything that can get rid of spam, just in general game design, count me in. Count me in.
Sean brings up a good point too. You know, I say this not lightly. In Alessio, I trust. I have been playing Alessio games for 25 years. I don't know. He wrote codexes back in the day, or army books for Warhammer. He wrote Middle Earth. He wrote Bolt Action. He's been around a long time, and you don't stay in this game for that long without having, you know, earning your chops and keeping your chops to keep there. So you know, I know we're kind of getting close to wrapping this up, but one of the things I did want to mention, and I don't know, it's a small point, and this is not where I expected him to answer the question, but I asked the question, what does Mantic bring to the table that's different than the other clients he works with? Because he's worked with Warlord, he's worked with Parabellum. And you know what, for those like Brian who don't listen to our show, he said Mantic's interaction with the community. It's important with Mantic. Mantic takes it seriously. And I think sometimes we can get jaded to say, oh, they don't listen. No, they do listen. They do hear it. They may not, you know, they have to filter data, right? I do that for a living, right? Like we look at data and, you know, if you've got 100 pieces of data and 3 of them say this one thing, well, yeah, that might not be the data you want to follow, right? But they are listening. They are engaged. And so I would just say to people, if you have concerns, share them, right? Share them, right? Especially
And I
after.
think,
Go ahead. Jeremy.
I just think what you said resonate with me, Rob, is, and I think the other side of that, which can be hard, is because they are so engaged with the community and have used the community as the RC or playtesters as feedback. I think it's really easy for us as the community to gain a sense of ownership over the game, and some of that is okay, right? You're going to feel like your game, it's your game, you love it, you have this ownership of it, but in the end, it's like Mantic is the company that makes this game, right? So they get to decide where it wants to go, and then the customers get to speak with their dollars, right? It's not like a betrayal of trust if they make a different choice than what maybe I would say, or what, because in the end, it's my game and I love it, but I don't work for Mantic. They don't pay me. So that's something to keep in mind with all of us in the community, is that Mantic listens to us because it's good business practice and stuff. But in the end, we can provide feedback. But I guess to feel entitled that we, I guess, have a say in how they run their business, I don't necessarily think that's going to get us anywhere, where instead we take what they give us, we try to provide feedback in the best way that we can, make the game the best it can be.
I mean, to be fair, we can vote with our dollars too, right? That's an important communication tool from the community, right? Like, for example, if they make an army that no one likes and doesn't buy it, they'll get the message. But, Jeremy, we were talking about this before we came online. I've made this distinction for a very long time, but there's a game called The Ninth Age. I don't want us to be like The Ninth Age, which is completely community driven, to the point where when they make changes, there becomes this infighting within the community because so-and-so made their army better and my army got like. I like to have the fact that I can just say, you know what? And even like GW made the change. Mantic made the change. Like, it's not about the people that maybe in the community provided support or provided playtesting. Like, it's their decision. And, whether we like the changes or not, I like the fact that I can just say, hey, it was their decision and they made it. And I can agree with it, or I don't have to agree with it. But what doesn't happen is it doesn't dissolve the bonds of the community to the point where we're picking at each other. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense.
No, it does. And I don't know how you feel, Rob, but also I've gotten to the age where it's like, if you talk to me, well, let's play this game, but we're going to pack it. I'm like, forget it. I'm not interested in trying to come to. I mean, I guess TOs always pack things, right? But I want to play the game as the company foresees it to be. And if you make little tweaks or little small changes, that's fine. But I don't want to read like a 40-page comp pack to a rule. You know what I mean? Let's just, I want to play a game that's supported by a company where there's, stuff in stores, and I don't know if that's just as I get older, I have less energy and want to just be told what the rules are.
Well, let's start over to Dylan O'Brien. I mean, we just had a little off tangent digression. What are your thoughts on community involvement in game design, community involvement in, influencing the direction of the game? What do you guys think?
As far as like communicating concerns, the one piece of advice I could give anybody would just be to let positivity be your default. If positivity is your default, then your concerns will come across much better. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? So it's okay to give criticism, but a lot of the concerns that we see, especially on Fanatics, are ignored by most of the other members of the community if they're coming across as like overtly negative for no reason. That's just kind of like some of the things I pick up on, and it's possible to be too positive, but even in everyday life, if you don't allow things to steal your joy from you, it's you can communicate with others so much better.
Yeah, and to tack on to that is like, it's most players, when you get the community overly involved, and not overly involved because I believe they should have a voice, but everybody looks at the game from their angle, from their armies, from their defeats, from their losses, from their wins. When there's 25 armies, right, you have to have a bird's eye view. And it's easy to throw criticism because I work at St. Jude. I'm a database. I solve problems for a living from an IT perspective and a solutions systems. Don't just come with a problem. It's easy to throw hate at something broken. If you don't have a better way of offering data to the company to help try to fix it, that doesn't get us anywhere. So I would say data rules, provide examples, provide problems, give them reasons what we should change and how you think it might help. And that might actually move the game forward than just saying, oh, shooting sucks. Stop skewing, it sucks. No data points don't help.
Be solution driven, right?
Be solution driven. Come with solutions, not just problems.
Yeah.
And be constructive.
Solutions, not problem.
Yeah. I think too, it's important that another word of caution here is that we're in this era that some of us have been here around 15 years. We've been playing Kings of War, right? Mark is one of the old guard. I was here. This is not new. Every time we've had a edition change or a Clash of Kings, it gets the emotions bubbling up. And what I would ask, and this is really just an ask for people, just respect everybody. Like, it's fine. Change is difficult for every person. In fact, I'm a change management kind of person, and
everybody,
the variable there is people. People hate change.
And everybody handles change differently. So give everybody a little space,
and that's okay.
Listen to what the communications
and that's
are,
okay. Let them if they need to vent, let them vent. Right? If they wanna give just random feedback, just let them air their grievances. The reality is, in the long run, I'll go back to what I say all the time. There's a game for everybody and everybody for a game. 4th edition is not going to be 3rd edition. It's going to be something new. Look, let's just cut to the chase. There's going to be some people that don't like this new edition, right? They, for whatever reason, and totally valid. That's okay. They can go play something else. And I'm not saying that in like a mean spirit. Like, the reality is, I want you to be happy. I want you to play the game that you get enjoyment from. If this isn't the game, it's also self-fulfilling in the sense that I would rather you not play the game with me if you don't really like it and you're going to make, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm forcing you to play a game you don't like, it's not really that's not the kind of opponent I want. Flip side is there's going to be a lot of people that do like. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just think it's apropos that it's being released in the holiday season, right? Which is the season of giving. So let's give each other some grace during this time, right? Assume positive intent. whether the changes you like or don't like. No one, I think, worked on this project with some evil maniacal goal to ruin the game, right? That's not the goal. The goal,
So, I don't have a metaphor, Jeremy, but I have a quote from another. So does everybody know who Brian knows? You know who Leonard Maltin is?
Yeah.
He always says no one goes out to make a bad movie, right? But sometimes bad movies happen, right? It's not because they were intended to do. Same thing here. No one's ill intent is to make a game that sucks and nobody wants to play. But from Mantic's perspective, they are trying. I genuinely think they're trying to shake things up a little bit, and they're trying to. I mean, look, Halo showed them. Halo showed them, guys. Like, people playing Halo are not Mantic. We're not Mantic players before. This is how crazy it is. Halo got two guys from Clarksville, Tennessee, to drive to Memphis to demo it with us at War Room Hobbies. They've never played a Mantic game before. We didn't know them from Adam, but we got hooked up because they were Pathfinders.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the potential here. There's a potential here for Ranks and Flanks to be something new and something fresh to people that maybe haven't given it a look before. So, again, we're going to lose some people, probably. We're going to gain some people. And I just hope the net effect is that we're moving forward. And I'm excited. I don't know. Like, I know it's kind of ambiguous what we're saying, but I'm genuinely excited about it. That being said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hedging my bets because, the spam thing still concerns me. Brian, you want to chime in here? You look like somebody has something to say.
Nah, I'm excited for fourth. But again, I told y'all I live with change every day in my world. So I like change. It's a chance to grow. It's a chance to learn something new. It's a chance to find new strategies and new tactics. So personally, I'm looking forward to fourth. Yes, I don't think it's gonna be perfect, but again, to Dylan's point, assume positive intent and let's play and learn it together. Best way to look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know it's getting caught up here a little bit, but I think, I mean, army selection, how you pick units. I think, you know what? This is a very good point that I would make, or that Ed's sort of leading me to, which is, I think the further we get, so I have said from the beginning, and I still stand by this, that there's less in common with Kings of War has in common with Warhammer than you think. People think there's a lot of overlap, but I would argue there's not. There's no charge reaction.
What was that first book called? Was it Forgotten Empires?
Uncharted Empires.
I was getting Uncharted. If it was Forgotten, it was almost be like, now we've forgotten them because the game is its own.
Well, now
thing.
It's back to being Uncharted because they don't exist anymore.
Really? Because
I don't know.
we're so far removed. I think the game is so far removed from placeholder lists for old Warhammer armies. You know what I mean? I think we have grown beyond that.
And Dwayne really hits home. This is what I want. Because at the end of the day, plastic.
That's my biggest. Yeah, it's my biggest hope for Kings of War 4th. I don't even care about the rules. I want models. I want awesome models. I want to have my breath taken away. I want to talk to people in my local shop who see a new Kings of War model and they're like, "Damn, man, they really getting their act together. Can you give me a demo game?"
You know what I'm excited for. We're gonna figure out what new armies are coming out. And then me and Dan are going to go into the battle bunker, and we're going to figure out what army we're going to come and crush Brian's hope and dreams.
Yeah.
At Blue City Brawl 2026.
Yeah, I keep having to play with my new guy Matt, so it's me versus 1.5 players versus two.
Dan bringing up a good point too. I literally think so. Matt poo-pooed on this. He was poo-pooing my Cheerios. I actually think it is not outside the realm of possibility that they figure out a way for an army that they know they're not going to do an army for a very long time to go ahead and partner with somebody to make an army and get a 3D sculpted army out there. I legitimately believe that. I mean, there's going to do so. Salamanders, fully digital. Commandant models are coming. I mean, come on, dude. Let's roll, man. I remember, can December get here soon enough? I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to have to 3D printing is an interesting angle that we haven't talked about at all because while I don't have a printer, I have many people that do. The problem with 3D printers is not everybody has access or the capability or the model. Because the 3D print, when we say it's cheaper models, you have to have a printer. You have to buy
and you got to have the reality is Matt said it best. Matt Gilbert. 3D printing is just one more way to deliver models. whether it's plastic, resin, or 3D printing, whether you printed it at home or they have a printing service that you can use to print. I mean, they are taking the right holistic. First of all, no other company's doing that. Let me just be frank. No other company that is still selling traditionally into retail is doing that. Yeah.
I think the concept of partnering with somebody where you can then use the vault to order your army. So I want to paint an army, and they got all the vault STLs. I go print me 50 of these, 20 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these, and just pay a price to get it all printed is a gold mine, in my opinion.
So I'll just say to Dan, I agree with you, but you should probably listen to another podcast because that topic specifically comes up, and that is not off the table about a plastic army. He didn't make it sound like it's tomorrow, but I think over time, yeah, for sure. That's what's interesting too. I think historicals somehow they can do it. The historicals are always moderately priced, so it's always an enigma to me how they're able to, whether it's the Victrix or the Perry brothers. So I guess the Perry twins. But yeah. Well, I don't know, guys. Final thoughts. I know we're at 2 hours. I appreciate you guys coming on. The goal for tonight was to 2 a.m. in the UK. Well, that's dedication. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to Bonehead Podcast on YouTube, you need to do that. They're doing some great Kings of War content, some reviews of the information as it comes out. Please subscribe. And us too, right? Like, I think we're still at like 500 subscribers. It's ridiculous. To be fair, I understand that 90% of the people that engage with our podcast are on Facebook and or whatever platform they're getting their podcast from, and it's not YouTube. I get it. But, Jeremy wants to do more videos and would be encouraged if our numbers went up.
Yeah, well, Crozier and I have talked about maybe doing, once the full rules get released, doing some videos around different mechanics and using Universal Battle to show some highlights of, how things have changed, different thinking, so more, stay tuned. But what I'm excited for next, Rob, is I'm excited for seeing the pre-orders. What's the starter box going to look like? What's your guess? Mine is Trident Realms and the new army. Because that's what's in those pictures that we've seen. That's my guess. And this is something I have no idea, so I could guess. I think it's going to be the new army for sure, right? That's got to be in one of the starter sets, whatever the new army is. Yeah, but we've been at it for 10 years. Or whatever, right? Like, so that's not saying much. 500 subscribers in 10 years. What is that? 50 a year? I don't know. My math's not good, but I could probably do that remedial math.
Sorry, I kind of laughed, Rob. That's great.
Right?
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. That was super fun. Great. Thanks for Dylan and Brian coming on. For sure. Thanks, Rob. And with Fanatics as it is, feel free to bring, if you don't feel comfortable in this, I'm not going to say anything negative, but just say Fanatics is a crazy time right now. Feel free to use our forum. We have the Facebook page. We have 1,500 people on it. We got Discord. I think we are a welcoming people. Not Matt. Matt can be a dirtbag sometimes. The rest of us are okay. He's not here to defend himself. I'm always floating around. Well, hey, let me float this idea. I have a new logo design. It's going to be me or maybe a goblin like this. And on my left shoulder, there's going to be a devil, which is Matt Crozier. And on the other is going to be, on my other shoulder, it's going to be an angel, which is Jeremy. Because I think I am the centrist between the two extremes. Yes, right? I think that's true. Yeah. So I was just going to say, in our chat, every now and then I got to come in and tell people to be nicer to each other. So for that especially on Discord. Yeah, there's a lot of places to complain, but don't come into my backyard or my game house to just bitch, unless you have a solution. Otherwise, gaming is supposed to be where we go to have fun and have community, not complain. Well, with that, Jeremy, you want to take us out? Yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. And remember, always keep counter charging. Always keep reforming and wrapping around. Reform wrap around. Oh, that's a Mark Zielinski style. Uh-huh. Thanks, everybody. One for you, Mark.
See you guys. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.